welcome to Tarun IAS. Today we will be discussing three important topics regarding the topic one of the day will be telecommunication bill. The second topic will be about the elderly population, as United Nations marked 1st October 2022 as the International Day for Older People. And third topic will be the inclusive growth and the issues arising from it. So let's start with first topic of the day. So the Ministry of Communication has released the Draft Telecommunication Bill 2022 for the public consultation. Now we will talk about what are the provisions of the bill, what is the intent of the government, and what are the concerns with the bill. So first we will talk about why the government has brought out a new telecommunication bill when already there were provisions regarding the regulation and licensing of the telecommunication network and other service providers. Now you see, you can relate this topic with General Studies Paper 2, which is Government Policies and Interventions for the Development in Various Sectors and Issues Arising Out of Their Design and Implementation, right? Now, what is the intent of the bill? The bill basically aimed at providing a legal framework which regulates and provides license to the telecommunication network in order to cater to the demand of the present generation and also to the future demand. According to the TRAI, by 2025, India will have per capita internet utilization of 18 GB. So considering the digitalization pace, the government wants to increase the infrastructure and make it more effective when it comes to catering to the demand of the digitalization of the economy. Now you see, the bill basically aims to ensure India's socio-economic development. Now the government intends to increase the penetration of the internet and telecommunication services to the rural area as well, considering the BharatNet project of the Government of India. Also to fulfill the demand of companies to bring online communication services. Now this is a very important provision in the bill that it aimed at bringing the online communication services under the ambit of regulation. We will be discussing this part in detail. I have taken this editorial from The Hindu and from a website called Lexicology for the provisions of the bill, and one of the articles have been taken from the Indian Express. I have merged these articles to provide a comprehensive coverage of this topic. Now let's move on. Why there is a need of the bill? First, that Indian government intends to have a future-ready telecommunication network and infrastructure. The second point is the archaic law, that the present legislation that deals with the regulation of the services and the telecommunications are decade old, which does not fulfill the demand of the digitalization of the economy and the future generation, and also to bring in the socio-economic development. For example, penetration of internet. And the fourth point is the telecommunication service providers' demand. Now what was this? Consider a traditional telecommunication service provider. A traditional telecommunication service provider, for example, we have got Reliance, we have got this Vodafone, we have Airtel. Now, what was the demand by these telecommunication service provider? That they provide the infrastructure, they buy the spectrum, and also they provide the networking services. They provide all these three things which are needed for the telecommunication. But they have to comply with the laws, with the licenses. With the license and other regulations like KYCs, right? However, the OTT services as in your WhatsApp, Telegram, and services and apps like Signals. Now, these OTT platforms, they provide the similar services like calling, and of course, let's include Google Meet also. This Google Meet, this Google Duo, right? So they provide services like calling, video calling, messaging, without complying with the law, with the licenses and the know your customers provisions. Therefore, there was a demand from the telecommunication service provider to bring OTT under regulation. Right. Now let's discuss what are the current regulatory mechanisms that exist in India to regulate the telecommunication services. The first mechanism, the first law that deals with the telecommunication is the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. Now this Telegraph Act is a decades old act, right? This Telegraph Act also provides government power for interception. Power for interception, right? We'll discuss what this power for interception is. For example, the telephone services. Now, the government in order to fulfill its objective of public order, defense, and security, the government can intercept the call, the telephone call. This can intercept this call. The second law is the Wireless Telegraphy Act of 1933, right? So, and other licenses provisions. So these are the current regulatory mechanisms that the telecommunication service providers have to comply with. Now let's talk about what are the provisions of the Act. Now in brief, if I talk about the provisions, the first provision that we already have discussed is that it aim at including the OTT services under the regulation and licensing provisions. The second point is about the TRAI, that how it dilutes or it kind of reduces the regulatory power of the TRAI, that is Telecommunication Regulatory Authority of India. Then other provisions which are related with the customers and other provisions which are related with the public entities in order to provide right of way. Now, one by one, we will discuss the provisions of the bill. The first provision, that it provides a liberalized framework. Let me change the color. That it provides a liberalized framework. All right. To govern the telecommunications in India, it repel would be, it would be better, that it aim at repelling these three laws and consolidate into one bill called Telecommunication Bill, all right, of 2022. It has been said that within 6 to 7 months this bill would become act. The third point is that it expands the definition of the telecommunication services, and by expanding means that it aims to include over the top services here, the machine to machine services and other services. These OTTs, they would be subjected to the same regulation and licensing. However, let me tell you one more important thing, that the bill, we will be talking about these things in concerns and limitations, but you have to understand this OTT definition was provided by TRAI. It was provided by TRAI in its 2015 consultation paper. In its 2015 consultation paper. Now, right. So the definition of OTT we will also be discussing as per TRAI, that any services which does not provide a network, nor it leases the network, however it provides similar services as the telecommunication service provider. The third important thing is the allocation. Now, Now the telecommunication service provider, these TSPs, they require spectrum. They require spectrum in order to provide the services, right? So the telecommunication service provider buy this spectrum from the government, because government has the monopoly on spectrum. So they have to buy from the government when government releases the auction. There is a process, and by auction they buy, the TSPs buy this spectrum. However, TRAI plays a very important role. The TRAI, the Telecommunication Regulatory Authority of India, it plays a very important role when it comes to allocation of spectrum. Right? The bill dilutes the power of TRAI. How it does so, we will be discussing in the limitation and concerns that has arisen because of the provisions of the bill. So allocation we have discussed, the OTT we have discussed, 3 provisions we have discussed, that it repels the archaic law. So 3 provisions are there. Now we talk about the legal recognition of right of way. Now what is this ROW? For example, there is a TSP and it wants to provide service to a particular area, right? Now in order to provide services to this area, it needs to have tower like this, and there will be wires going on. There will be underground optical fibers. Now in order to create infrastructure for the network, the TSP requires area, that is land. So this right of way provides these conditions, this requirement of the TSPs. Now the bill actually divides the right of way into two parts, which we will discuss further. And the bill also eases in merger control and insolvency norms when it comes to the telecom sectors, and it also provides for the data localization. This topic is very important. Maybe in some other class we will discuss what data localization is, and other technologies that are associated with the localization of data. Now let's discuss what is right of way. Now you see, the right of way rules for laying overground towers, laying optical fibers, and coordinating among the telecom companies and resolving the disputes arising from the same. Now this is what is known as the right of way. I have already discussed what right of way is, that in order to provide the infrastructure, etc., all the requisite in order to provide the network services. So this is right of way. Another provision that the bill proposes is the power to suspend the internet. So the government suspends internet under the Telecom Service Public Emergency and Public Safety Rules of 2017. There is one more provision for the suspension of internet, that is section 144 of CRPC. This also provides power to the district magistrate to suspend internet services in a disturbed area. For example, rioting and all, in cases of rioting and all, the district magistrate has the power to suspend internet under this section of CRPC. So the bill provides government the power to suspend internet, right? Power to suspend internet, power of the interception under the provisions of national security and defense. I had written somewhere. Okay, so there will be two important reasons for the suspension of internet and the interception. One is the national security and the defense purposes, right? For two major reasons. Also, this we will discuss when it comes to how it caters to the demand of the consumers. Now, what are the provisions for the consumer protection? What are the provisions in the bill for the consumer protection? The first is the availability of the identity of the person communication through the OTT, right? So the phone number and the identity, these two things will be available. Like if someone calls me via OTT platform, so these two things will be visible to me. That means in order to protect the consumer, the identity of the person, that is the name and the phone number, they will be available. Okay. The second provision is the wrong information. That if anyone provides wrong information, there is a penal provision. There is a penalty. There is a penalty of rupees 50,000, right? And also suspension of the services for certain duration. The consent of the subscriber. Now the bill also provides for the consent of the subscriber when it comes to the messages and the calls which are unsolicited. That sometimes the companies, they do call for some purposes. Some other companies, for example, the insurance companies, they call to expand their customer or clientele base. So these are all unsolicited messages and calls, something that we do not intend to receive. So there is important provision in order to protect the consumer is the consent of the subscriber. That you need to take the consent of the subscriber if you want to if he or she wants to receive these messages or calls or not. Right. Now let us see what are the limitations of the bill and what are the concerns that are associated with this bill. The expert says that the bill has not defined what OTT services is. Now this is a very wide field, and when it comes to innovation and technological development, OTT has a wider field. So the bill needed to define what OTT services will be. So as I already told you, in 2015 consultation paper, the TRI has, it's not installation, it's consultation. Right. So in 2015 consultation paper, OTT services were defined as a service provider which offers information, communication technology services, but neither operates a network, right? WhatsApp does not operate any network. It nor leases network capacity from a network operator. It only utilizes the network from other telecommunication services provider to provide its calling and messaging services. Okay. Another important point is in 2020, TRI had recommended that in favor of market forces. What does it mean? That the TRI said that let the market situation decide that how the OTT services or other telecommunication services should be regulated. Like they should not have a strict regulatory framework. Reduce the regulatory framework intervention. This was the recommendation of TRI in 2020. So expert says that the bill actually goes contrary to what TRI has recommended. The second concern that arises is the full-scale licensing. If full-scale licensing is there, then the scope for innovation would reduce. Right? Scope for innovation is reduced. Compliance burden will increase. compliance burden will increase. Now what will happen? This will affect the rural penetration of internet. This will affect the rural penetration of internet and other services and other services. For example, telemedicine, telelaw, telemedicine and telelaw, right? It will have deleterious effect on innovation. I have discussed this. I discussed this. Also the OTT services and the telecos, they have different functionalities. In the year 2021, the government of India has brought up the rules for regulation of intermediaries. Now this was for OTT services, for social media platforms. And for the online media. Media like news channels and all. Online media like news, such as news channels and all. Now this framework which OTT services have to comply with, right? And another framework which will be provided by the bill. Now these two frameworks by the government, they have increased the regulatory burden or compliance burden on OTT services. Experts also says that these two have different functionalities. Therefore, to bring in under the same ambit of regulation will be flawed, right? Now these are the concerns which are arising because of the provisions of the bill. Also the bill dilutes the TRAI's responsibility. Now how it does so, we will discuss it. How it impacts the position of TRAI. Now first, recommendatory. What does it mean? The TRAI is a regulatory body, right? However, the bill reduces it to recommendatory body. Alright. No recommendation for licenses. Now what happens? The government, this is government and this is TRAI. Now government seeks recommendation of TRAI when it comes to allocation of spectrum, when it comes to allocation of licenses. This provision is diluted, that the government will no longer require the recommendation of the TRAI when it comes to issuing of licensing. Wait, let me delete this. So this is government. Let me draw a flow chart here. This is government. This is TRAI. The government seeks what? Recommendation, other information, right? In order to issue the spectrum and licenses, right? The TRAI also seeks what? Information, the requisite information from the government in order to provide these recommendations, right? So the third point is no requisition of information, right? So TRAI will no longer be required to requisite any information from the government because this position has already been diluted. Reconsideration of the recommendation, this has also been diluted. So TRAI can ask the government to reconsider its recommendation. However, the bill dilutes this as well. So therefore, the TRAI has been reduced to a recommendatory body and not a regulatory body. So this is how the expert says the bill is impacting the position of TRAI as a regulatory body. Now third point, now the other point associated with this is it encroaches upon the right to privacy. Right to privacy. Now let us talk about one important thing is the end-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption. Right. So the government seeks to dilute this provision as well, which will impact the right to privacy of the user. Right to privacy of the user. In the 2017, the Supreme Court judgment in the Puttaswamy case, and also the Justice B.N. Sri Krishna committee recommendations, these two things have not been considered while drafting the bill. So there is a issue arising when it comes to the right to privacy. Also the bill finds no mention of learning from the Supreme Court guideline when it comes to this Anuradha Bhasin case, in case of the internet suspension. All right, this case you should remember that the Supreme Court said, what did the Supreme Court say? This is called as the, let me write it clearly. Supreme Court relied on the doctrine of proportionality. Now what does this mean? That the government can only suspend the internet when it passes the test of proportionality, right? Or the government can suspend the right of a citizen when the law passes the test of proportionality. That means the infringement of the right should be in proportion to the intent the government seeks to fulfill, the aim the government seeks to fulfill. So this was important doctrine that Supreme Court relied on when it comes to the internet suspension, because internet under Article 19, see this, under Article 19 is a right to freedom of speech and expression. Remember the Shreya Singhal case. The Supreme Court says that right to internet is under Article 19 a right to freedom of speech and expression. All right. So the bill has not considered all these cases or the doctrine of proportionality and the right to internet or the 2017 Supreme Court judgment in the Puttaswamy case. So the bill has lot of concern associated with it. However, the intent of the government to provide a regulatory framework which is not only future ready but also cater to the demand of the future generation and the pace of the digitalization in India. So let us move on to the next topic of the day. Let us move to the second topic of the day. So the second topic of the day is I have taken this topic because on 1st of October 2022, United Nations marked 1st October as the International Day for Older Population. So let us consider that why the old age population or aging is very important. Because of the various factors, there is a rising growth when it comes to aging population. You can relate this article with General Studies Paper 1, Social Empowerment, General Studies Paper 2, Welfare Schemes for Vulnerable Sections of the Population by the Center and States, and the performance of these schemes. You can also relate it with the topic from General Studies Paper 2, that is Mechanism, Law, Bodies and Institutions Constituted for the Protection and Betterment of these Vulnerable Sections. I have taken this article from The Hindu, The article specifically focused on the eye care, and it tried to associate it with other morbidities and other age-related problems that the older people faces. However, I have tried to cover this topic comprehensively. So let us first see the data which is associated with this. That as per census 2011, 104 million of older population. That means 8.6% of the population is older population in India. And according to the UN data, India's population will be 1.7 billion by 2050. Now you see, age is a natural phenomena. Age is natural, right? Senescence is natural. So birth, age, aging, and death. This is a natural cycle. This is first point. The second point is the demography. Now we know that India has a limited demographic dividend window. That means by 2041, this is the year where our demography will be at its climax. That means the number of working population will be at its high level, and after that it will start to decline. That means India's population will be aging population. Aging population, it has different demands, it has different challenges. It will require the economy to change itself in a certain way that we will be discussing. According to United Nations Population Fund, State of the Population Report 2022, the India's population, older population is projected to be 324 million. Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation Report Elderly in India 2021 says that the older population is growing by a pace of 36%. Right? Now, this is one of the study, longitudinal aging study, LASI. This was conducted by this one person that I have forgotten the name, and this study is from this Harvard. That study says that population aging in India is inevitable. That is, of course, you see, European population is aging, Japan population is also aging, and the population is declining also. Similarly, the case with India, we have seen that the total fertility rate of India, the average total fertility rate of India is 2.0, which is even below than the replacement rate, which should be 2.1. Right? So we are like the population is declining. The southern states, on an average, the total fertility rate of southern state is 1.7, and some northern states like Bihar, they have more than 3. The total fertility rate is more than 3. So we will discuss about this disproportionality and this disparity also. But first you have to consider that India's aging in India is inevitable. And the study also says that India is ill prepared. Now, why the study says that India is ill prepared? Because of the need and the demand of the aging population. And what are those need and demand of the aging population? You see, you look at this chart, which is the source is Youth in India 2022 MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. In 2011, I will specifically focus on this age group, that is 60 plus senior citizens. I will also discuss what silver economy is. This is 8.6. In 2021, expected to be 10%. 2031, expected to be 13.2%. Right? Now, compare these three age groups. Compare this age group from 0 to 14 and also compare this age group, youth. According to the National Youth Policy, the age group from 15 to 29 is youth, right? And from 15 to 49, it's like 59 working population. So compare these age groups. There is a declining there is a declining population here because of declining childbirth. Why the population of children will decrease? First, according to the National Family Health Survey, there is an increased usage of contraceptive methods or contraception. There is an increased usage of contraception. So because of this also the childbirth will decrease. And the second point is the health. Government of India is trying its level best to increase the penetration of the health services to have an inclusive, affordable and available health services. So because of these two important factors, the childbirth rate will increase. Third important factor is the urbanization, modernization and preference for nuclear families, right? Preference for nuclear families. The fourth point will be the declining infant mortality rate, right? The declining infant mortality rate, the declining maternal mortality rate. So because of this also there are higher chances that the couple would reduce the number of children. So what is being seen in India? The limiting the size of family, right? So when we compare these two age groups, we see there is increasing population of 60 plus and we see that there is decreasing population of 0 to 14, right? And also see this, that 2036 the working age is 42.2%. The working age group will be this. So here also we are increasing for obvious factors. Here we are declining because we are moving towards aging. I think it is, let me delete this all. So if you compare this flow chart, you will find, if you compare this chart of Youth in India 2022 by MOSPI, we are moving towards the aging population. This is declining and these three age groups are increasing. Right. This is, sorry, not these three age groups, only these two age groups. These two age groups we see a decline, right? Because the one who has taken birth will definitely go through the natural cycle of birth, age and death. So we are moving towards the aging population. Now this aging population, it has its own challenges, right? What are the factors contributing to the growing aging population that I already have discussed? It's a natural phenomenon. Aging is a natural phenomenon. There is a declining fertility rate. There is increasing use of contraceptives, and National Family Health Survey 5th round proves this. The increasing age at marriage. Also the government intend to legally increase the age of the girls at marriage from 18 to 21. Try to relate it with the Jaya Jetli task force, right? And there are other reasons why the age at marriage for girls is increasing. Not just this, but also the employment, the education. If you look at the data of UDICE Plus, this was released by Ministry of Education. If you see the data, the gross enrollment ratio of girls is increasing, right? So this is also the reason, increasing age at marriage. Okay, if the girl marries late, marriage is late, so there are higher chances that the couple will have less number of children. Okay. Less number of children, obviously these two couple will age and less children, so contributing to the aging population. The declining infant mortality rate and increasing longevity. Longevity means what? The average life expectancy, how long a person lives. But longevity does not only mean the number of years. It does not only restricts itself to number of years, but also the healthy years, right? That means with the increasing health services, there will be decreasing Delhi. What is this Delhi? What is this Delhi? Let's delete this. What is this Delhi? This is disability adjusted life years. So higher the longevity, lesser will be the Delhi. Okay. So let's discuss the challenges which are associated with the aging population. Like I said, that it is a natural phenomena. There will be mismatch in the economic growth and the growing aging population. The demands and the requirement of the aging population are different from the younger population and the children. For example, the health issues. Here I have written universal health coverage. Universal health coverage will be required because aging population is not a uniform population. Aging population is not a uniform population, right? Some aged person are they are economically well off. Some aged person are below some of the population of aging group is below poverty line. According to one of the estimates, it is 30%. So therefore, the requirements and the need of the aging population according to the socio-economic conditions are different, and the government of India should cater to the need and requirement of the all person falling into the 60 plus age bracket, right? So the health will be a major challenge. Non-communicable diseases like arthritis, heart diseases, age-related ailments, for example, hypertension, right? For example, hypertension. So the first health challenge, that would be eye care. Second will be the requirement of the food. Different food needs. Some of the food will suit them, some of the food items will not suit them. So the requirement of the food and the it will change. So eye care, the food, the hypertension issue, and the fourth will be the social interaction. Mobility. The fifth point is the mobility, right? What do I mean by this mobility? The age group person require a comfortable and inclusive infrastructure for them to be able to move, to be able to be mobile population. For example, let me give you a very simple example that I had observed in my day-to-day life. The bus. The bus, metro, right? Now what happens when an older person, if you do you remember the old DTC buses? They were not friendly to the older population. They were not older population friendly. Because why? If this is the road, the pedestal or the platform of the bus was too high for any older person to step on it, right? It was too high. They were not friendly to the older population. The new buses, these green buses and the blue buses, they still have this lower platform. So it is quite comfortable. So for the older population, in order to be mobile, there should be accessible There should be accessible, like we have ramps for the person with disabilities. We do require ramps for the older population also. Some of the older population, they walk with that triangle, this stick and all. So they do require ramps. They do require lift which is friendly to them. And how we can make the lift friendly to older population? By having an assistant inside the lift, right? So we have discussed the economic growth, that the economy should be aging population friendly. We will discuss what the government is doing for this. Universal health coverage will be required so as to have not only accessible but also affordable health services. Non-communicable diseases will be the challenge. Feminization of elderly population. Feminization of elderly population. Now what is this feminization? Feminization means the number of female will be more than the number of male. Now what does this mean? What does this imply? The females, they have different need and requirement. Alright. Also one more challenge will be the social interaction. Now imagine a situation where there is a female. If there is a feminization of elderly population, that it clearly means that the longevity of the female is more than the male spouse or the male counterpart, right? If she is living for more years than her spouse, that means the challenge that she will face in her old age will be what? Isolation. This loneliness. So this also we have to keep in mind, because this is what? The social interaction is what constitutes the social capital of the nation. Social capital of the nation. So if there is aging population which is not taken care of, the social capital of the nation will decline. And social capital, having a strong social capital is one of the prerequisites for having a happy nation. Right? Okay. So I have taken this feminization of elderly population from the report published by United Nations Population Fund, State of the Population Report 2022. Let me draw a graphical chart here to show that how the female population is increasing. In 1971, it was 938. In 2011, it was 1033. And as per the projection in 2026, it will be 1060. It will be 1060. So you see, this is that this is the year. These are the years, and this is the percentage of female. And this is the percentage of female. So what we can clearly see is the rising female population, right? And I have discussed that what does this feminization of elderly population, implies. That means the economy will be faced with different set of challenges because of this feminization. Now let's move on to the next part. What are other challenges faced by the elderly population? The poverty. Like I said, according to one of the estimates, 30% of the elder population, suffer from, they're below poverty line. They're below poverty line. Right? Morbidity.
75% have chronic diseases, 40% have disabilities, and 20% they have mental health issues. This is according to the United Nations Population Fund report 2022, the same report that I have been referring to earlier. Right. How the mental issues will arise? These morbidities, these chronic diseases, disabilities, these are age-related problems, but mental health issues will arise because of the reduced social interaction. And why this social interaction will reduce? Reduced social interaction implies increasing loneliness and isolation. Because of this will be due to disintegration of the joint families. The traditional role played by grandparents will reduce, and because of that the social interaction will reduce, and this will contribute to the mental health issues, right? So there will be rising mental health issues in the near future according to this report. Lack of social support and social security. If 30% of the elder population is below poverty line, that means they are automatically excluded from the ambit of social security. For example, old age pension. For example, old age pension. Lack of physical infrastructure. Older population require accessible infrastructure. For example, like I discussed, ramps. Some of the older person walk through sticks. They use sticks when it comes to. So if we want a mobile older population, we have to make the infrastructure accessible. For example, I discussed the example of the bus. You can take any other examples from your daily observation, that how we can make our physical infrastructure more elder friendly, right? So lack of physical infrastructure will be another challenge. So India will have to work on these things. On these aspects, India will have to work, because we are moving towards the aging population. Now let's discuss what silver economy is, right? Since we are moving towards the aging population and the population will be declining, therefore we have to take advantage of this also. We cannot have our economy go down just because the population is decreasing. What does it mean? What does silver economy means? That we have to utilize the consumptive potential of the older and aging population, not only to satisfy their daily needs or daily requirement, but also to boost the economy. And how it will happen? The government of India had launched the SAGE initiative. 100 crores will be given to the startups who will be specializing in the products that are needed by the older population. For example, I gave you the example of adult diapers, right? This is just an example. The life assisted devices, for example, hearing aid, right? So, and this is the quality of life index released by PM Economy Advisory Council, just to see which state is working or progressing towards catering to the needs of the older population. And there are several other initiatives by the government of India to protect its older population. Some of the initiatives I have discussed here. There are many initiatives, but the major ones I have taken here. The first is the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizen Act of 2007. It has several provisions, like the children cannot expel their old parents from their house, or the property cannot be transferred to their children without their consent, or if the children do disturb them after the transfer of the property, the older population or the older parents do have the right to take back their property. So these are some of the provisions given in this act. Rashtriya Vayushri Yojana, it is to It is to provide for the life assisted devices. For example, hearing aid, walking stick, etc., etc. The National Policy on Senior Citizen 2011. Now this basically aimed to support the welfare of the older population. The Vayo Shreshth Samman. Now why this is important? You know, in order to recognize the contribution of the older population, if we as a younger generation do not recognize what our older parents and what our grandparents have done to the nation, to us and to the larger section of the society, then recognizing their contribution is like boosting their morale and having their participation not only in the economy but also in the society. So Vayo Shreshth Samman to felicitate the older citizens who have done something well. National Council of Senior Citizens and National Action Plan for the Senior Citizens. Now this action plan focuses on the 4 aspects of the older population: the financial security, the food requirement. Like I said, you know, the requirement of the food it changes with the age. The healthcare needs, eye care, hearing, ENT and all, etc., etc. The human interaction, because if there is a less human interaction, it will lead to what? Mental health issues. So with this, we are done for today. We'll see you in the next class. Have a nice day.